Good morning. I presume when Bogdan says I come from the non-web area, he means I'm old. So he's quite correct in that regard, if nothing else. I come from the pre-web area, not the non-web area. That distant past prior to most of your lives when the web was something that a spider built, not that we used for information. And the web has had a rather traumatic impact on the world. It is, after all, only 15 years old or so. And in that 15 years, everything has changed. My own business career started pre-web, and so the first business I built was a business that had no internet to rely upon. The investments I've made in the last few years, because I'm an angel investor amongst other things, have solely been in companies that were in some way uniquely transformed by the web. And so it has been, even within my working career span, a complete transition in how I look at the starting of a business. I did a little back-of-napkin calculation recently because I am in the process of investing in a new angel startup right now. And I was just curious because when the person came to me for the money, they asked for too little. That's not usually the issue in life. Usually, they want too much. And I looked at the number and I thought to myself, that can't possibly be all she needs. It must be more. But we went through the numbers together. And what I realized was, so I did a little back calculation. I took the same list of things that needed to be accomplished, and I transported myself back in time, in my head, from 2011 to 2005, and I made a list of how much it would have cost in 2005 to do what she felt we needed to do to start the business in 2011. And the total, by the way, the total amount that she asked for was £20,000 as seed capital to get started. In 2005, it would have cost £200,000. In 6 years, there has been a 90% drop in the cost of starting a pretty standard web mobile business seed capital requirement. So then I thought to myself, well, let's go back again to, say, 1997. Now, of course, I was immediately struck with the first issue. We couldn't have done it in 1997. And so I had to make up a series of sort of transformations in order to pretend we could have done it in 1997 and what it would have cost to get as close as we could, and that would have cost us a couple of $1 million. And so it would be my assertion that there was a decimation, a reduction by 90% in the cost of capital required to start a business from the late 90s to the mid-2s, and another decimation from the mid-2s to today, which we're talking about meaning a centimation, a reduction in total cost of capital of probably 99% just in the period that the web has been around, in the heart of the last 12 years. So when people ask me, first and foremost, what's different now? The answer is it doesn't cost much. Why is that important? Well, because capital, and anybody here who's involved in the world of startups will know that I actually spend most of my time talking about everything but money. I talk about how you start a business, how you need to have a very narrow focus, how you need to accumulate as many advantages as you can. And I run School for Startups, and I teach most of the program. And I've written most of the curricula. And what I talk about tends to be how to design a business so it has the greatest, most compelling chance of winning. I love winning. Winning is so much better than losing. Losing sucks. I've lost. I tried it. Don't do it. Instead, you come to my course, I show you how I lost so that you can win. The best way to win is to design a well-designed business. Interestingly enough, though, this morning, what I want to highlight for you is that the effort of designing a well-designed business in 1997 remains the same as it does today, but the likelihood of having a successful business if you design it well is much greater. Designing a well-designed business is something you can do, something you can learn, something that can be taught. Getting capital, you may or may not be able to do. Some things are within an entrepreneur's control. Some things are outside of an entrepreneur's control. It is an unfortunate artifact of life that money is frequently outside our control. It's not within our gift. Thus, the decrease in importance of money is an increase in likelihood of success. Capital has two roles in a business in the early days. The first is it's an obstacle. If you don't have it, it's difficult to get something started. And second, it's an advantage. For many years, for most of my life, people with money turned it into a club, and they'd walk around pounding those of us who didn't have it, using the capital as an advantage. They could buy market share, they could buy vendors, they could buy access to critical resources, they could buy advertising, they could blanket us out, they could shove us to the perimeters. They can't do that anymore. In almost every single line of the purchase and profit and loss statement, the offset to capital is the internet. Why is this terribly important? Because the less capital that's needed, the less that certain individuals are needed. We don't need as much VC as we did before. And in fact, the role of the VC, which was in theory to supply the first round of institutional capital, is now pushed back. Because if the total amount of money needed across a life frame of a business is less, then an angel can play a greater, more significant role. Because that lesser amount of capital that an angel has available becomes more significant in the early stages of the business. And there are more angels, and there always will be more angels than our VCs. And angels, just flat out, are nicer people. And I don't say that because I'm an angel, though it's true. That's why they call us angels, right? They don't call us VCs. There's a reason why angels exist. We exist because, and the difference between us and a VC is profound. Watch. Angel investor. I take money out of my back pocket, and I put it into your business. VC. I take money out of his back pocket, and I put it into your business. What's the difference? If an angel investor invests in your company and the company succeeds, you both profit. If a VC, and collaterally, if your investment goes to pot, you both lose money. But if a VC puts money into your company and you succeed, you both make money. If your investment doesn't succeed, you lose money, he doesn't. Very different case and situation. The incentives are different, the behaviors are different. It's called OPM, other people's money. It's fantastic. I wish I'd learned about it years ago. The behavior of everyone changes when you're not spending your own money. A VC is the guardian of third-party money, and they spend it collaterally, quite aware of the fact that they're not spending their own. They have become less important. Full stop. It's not that you might not need large money someday, it's just that you can advance much further down the road as a startup with much less capital. Earlier this month, I was in Cluj in Timișoara running a series of events in partnership with the Post-Privatization Foundation and with Maria Zgena by my side, and we were doing something called Venture Connect, where a series of companies presented in a sort of a Arena Lelor style competition. And the first thing that struck me, actually two things struck me. One, if there is no country in the world where I can't see a bad presentation. I can go anywhere I want in the world and somebody can do a really crap pitch. It's not just Romania, it's just as bad in LA, just bad, but everywhere does the bad pitch. What was interesting to me though was, the new thing was I'm now starting to see superb pitches as well. I'm starting to see a pitch that is as good in the Valley. I saw one in Cluj and one in Timișoara, both of which were precisely as good, with precisely the same opportunity and prospects as I would see in London, New York, Boston, or San Francisco. That is different. 5 years ago, it's not clear to me that I would have. Interestingly enough to me, both of the people who presented had certain characteristics in common. A, they were young. Now, of course, from my point of view, everybody's young. They were younger. They are part of the generation that identifies itself as much laterally, i.e., if you're under a certain age, you may not appreciate this, but you see the world laterally. Your peers are everyone else on the web anywhere. Your ability to access information is just as timely in Beijing and Bucharest as it is in Paris, London, or New York. And so everybody sees everything right now. The playing field has flattened, and the way you act is different than your peers of an older age. You are more in common with other people in your half-decade than you have with anyone a decade older than you, and the way you pitch and the way you think and the ideas you have reflect that, and that's good. The second thing is about the people who presented is they were totally 21st century style web businesses. They could not exist without the web, either one of them. They depend upon the internet for infrastructure. They depend upon the internet to create the innovation they have. They're standing on the shoulders of very large giants. When I teach my classes, it's my view that a business starts with a very simple proposition, and that proposition defines the entire shape of the business forever. But then you go around and you ignore the product or service you've created, and you look at the business you're building, which is just as important as the product you're building. And most people, when they first start a business, think it's the product that matters. The product matters far less than you may imagine. The advantages you create in a business come as much from everything around the product as the product itself, and the creativity you bring to bear should be as great there. But even more important, where the internet has its impact is more around the product than in the product. I had a very entertaining conversation a couple of years ago with the British government. They set up a new venture capital fund, and they were only going to invest in innovation companies, hot startups. And I said, okay. And they had come up with, as only a government can do, they'd come up with a list of rules that the companies had to overcome in order to be an innovation company. And I looked at these rules and I thought, this can't possibly be correct. And so I said to them, are you sure these rules will distinguish the innovation companies from the non-innovation companies? They said, absolutely, it's foolproof. So I said, well, let's run a test. I'm going to present you a company. You tell me whether it's an innovation or company or not. So I presented them a company. They said, no, it's not. I said, that's a shame, because that's Amazon. Damn. So let's do another one. Present them another company. They said, no, this time for sure, not. I said, shit, that's Netflix. I said, we're not doing very well, are we? I didn't bother trying iTunes out on them. There's a reason why it failed. It's because their definition of an innovation company centered solely on the product or service and whether it in and of itself was innovative. But if you look at an Amazon or a Netflix, let's take Netflix. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Netflix, who has its counterpart in the UK called Love Film, is a company that does something very old-fashioned. They rent, up until recently only, rented DVDs of movies. That's what they did. Their innovation wasn't in the fact that they rented DVDs. That's been going on for 25 years. Well, VHS to tape to DVD. Their innovation was they changed the pricing model. It used to be that you walked into a Blockbuster or somebody like that, and you rented a DVD, and you had to return it one night later, and if you didn't, you were charged a late fee. Netflix said, people hate late fees. How about we give you an all-you-can-eat buffet? We'll charge you a flat fee per month, but you can only take out 2 at a time. People loved it. What's the difference? A model? What's the difference? A shipping fulfillment system that worked? That's it. Are they a web business? You're damn right they are. They're a business that could not exist but for the web. And there's a lot more to Netflix today, because the one hill they conquered let them see the next hill, which is the live streaming of material. And then after that, the fact that TV and the web are about to collide, and they have big plans there as well. And they've managed to become a multi-billion-dollar business on the fact of what? Innovation in the business model, not in the product or service. Just one innovation. I would assert that it is just as important, if not more important, for you to be able to look at every element of a business and ask, how can I be disruptive? Because though I think a product or service should be very narrow, I think the advantages you collect around those products or services have to be as many as possible. You are not just small, you're invisible. You're not just up against large competitors, you're up against much, much larger competitors. We underestimate the gross inequality of the world. The web is the leveler of our playing field. It lets the silent become noisy, the invisible become visible, and it lets each one of us become a powerful brand assassin who can bring the big down, and at the same time we raise up the new. I'll close with a little story and the spirit of bringing down the big. So last Christmas, My son, who's 15, received a Christmas gift from his grandparents of far too much money. They spoil him. And he sat there on Christmas Day as a 15-year-old will. And it didn't occur to him he could put the money away, say, in a bank account. What does a 15-year-old want to do with money when they get it? Spend it. How quickly? Now. Thank God for the web. And he says to me, Dad, what we need is the latest, most violent, rude, obnoxious shooter game ever made for mankind. You'll love it. We can kill everyone. Now there's a selling proposition. It's like Call of Warfare, Duty, Kill Them All, Fuck Your Head, Part 3 or something. It's not a nice game. So we went out to buy it, but it turned out, of course, we didn't have the right controller. I forget which controller it runs on. PlayStation 5000. Who knows? All I know is we went on the web, and there was a bundle on Amazon where you could buy the controller and you could buy the software for exactly 200 pounds, which was the total amount of money his very indulgent grandparents had given him. But PC World Online had it for $179.99. And I said to him, look, I've never bought from PC World Online, but I buy from Amazon all the time. One click, it'll be here tomorrow, we'll both be happy. He goes, Dad, this is 20 pounds. I mean, I know you're rich, but some of us, we don't have that kind of money. I'm going, you're 15. You've never spent a penny in your life. Whatever. He says, we're going to get it from PC World Online. I'm going to teach you to budget. And I said, fine. He said, but I've never bought from them before. He says, it's in stock. It says so, this little red thing. I said, cool, no worries. So we bought it. We got an email. Your product will ship tomorrow. Got an email the next day. Your order has been canceled. We got an email after that saying your order has been restored. We got an email after that saying your restored order is on hold. A lot of emails. Lucas comes to me the next day home from school. No product. A lot of emails. What's happening, Dad? I said, no idea. I said, I'm sure it'll be here tomorrow. That's what they said. The next day comes. I'm at a board meeting. I get an emergency text. No box. A crisis has erupted in my son's life. This would be a crisis in my son's life. I come home. What do? I said, let's call them. I said, even before that, it's the web. Let's just track the order. So we get on board. We get on the web. We go to PC World Online, and I click on PC World Online. I click on my order. It says, you cannot track online. I think this is not good. This is going downhill very quickly. So there's a number. So I call the number. I get a voicemail. The voicemail says, please have your order number ready so we can investigate. Your order will start with a 44. I said, shit, I don't know where my order number is. I went to look for my order number. By the time I got back, I found the PDF in the email. They'd hung up, so I started again. I get to the part where it says 44. I look at my order number. My order number starts with a 10. I say, oh, shit. So I get a person on the phone. I say, hi. She says, hello. May I have your order number? I think to myself, here we go. I said, my order number is 10. She says, you're not ordering a washing machine. I said, no, I've called PC World Online. Do you sell washing machines? She goes, yes. I said, gosh, why? Wouldn't that be like washing machines online? She goes, well, we're part of a much bigger corporation called the Dixon's Group. I said, oh, I've heard of you. I said, I don't really care, do I? I'm actually looking for my order. She said, well, let me get on that for you. She said, you've come to the right department. We're the order tracking department. I said, excellent. I'm the person who needs an order tracked. She comes back to me. She says, well, your product wasn't in stock. I said, it said it was in stock on the web. She goes, oh, it's not right. I said, oh. She says, that doesn't work. I said, that's nice. I said, so then what happened? She says, well, then because your order wasn't in stock, we canceled your order. I said, that seems peculiar to me. She goes, but then we replaced the order automatically when it came into stock. I said, excellent. This explains all the emails I got, which made no sense. I said, so where's my order? She goes, well, as it turns out, it's not in stock. I said, that's a shame. She says, but it's going to be in stock tomorrow, and you're going to have it in 48 hours. I said, thank you very much. I said to Lucas, she claims we'll have it in 48 hours. 48 hours pass. I'm in London. He comes home from school. I get a text, no box. I come home, a bit of a crisis at home. My money, he's beginning to say, has been held by this unreasonable company. He started to use some words he'd learned from me. We call back PC World Online. I go through the same rigmarole. I get somebody else. And I say to her, where's my product? She said, well, it's not in stock. I said, the last lady says it was going to be in stock and it was shipped 40 hours. She said, she couldn't have known that. She shouldn't have told you that. I said, but she's the order tracking department. She says, so am I. I said, fine, can you tell me where my order is? She goes, well, it's not clear. We're going to have to track the order. I said, well, I thought that was what you did. You're the order tracking department. She says, well, we are, but we use another department to actually track the orders. I see, I said, may I have their number? No, you may not. Only we may talk to the order department that tracks the orders for the order tracking department. I said, okay. How do you do that? She said, we'll send them an email. I then said, what will happen? They'll send us an email back. I said, well, if they don't send you an email back, what are you going to do to follow up? She says, I'll send them another email. I said, this could go on long. She goes, they always follow up. I'll call you back. I said, what's your name? She said, Sarah P. She wouldn't even give me her last name. She'd only give me the first initial of her last name. How defensive is that? I'm not going to tell you who I am because you might hunt me down because I'm such an asshole. That's what it sounded like to me. As you can imagine, 2 days pass, no call, no order, no product. I'm really starting to get hacked off. I lose my temper. And I do a 21st century thing. I go on Twitter. And I write a tweet. I wanted to feel better. This is how I did it. I wrote, hashtag PC World Online. Sucks, 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 sucks. I will never buy again from PC World Online. I put as many sucks in as you could in 140 characters. You can put in quite a few. It's only 5 long. I posted it. I felt pretty good. I'm like, yo. Boy, did it get retweeted. There's nothing like a solid flame to get everyone to pay attention. Now, I have an advantage over some of you, not over others, because I got about 9,000 people following me. So lots of people took the opportunity to retweet it. And I felt good. But I didn't feel as good as I wanted to. It didn't really provide closure. Fortunately, I got a tweet from someone else who's named Claire Rainey, who's one of the leading retail analysts in the UK, and she says, Doug, there's somebody from the Dixon's Group, the parent company of PC World Online, who has a Twitter account. His name is Mark something. Here it is. I thought, ooh, that's good. So I put @Mark whatever. Hashtag PC World Online. You suck, 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 suck. Hashtag fail. He replied, Mr. Richard, I'm sorry to hear you've had a disappointing experience with PC World. Perhaps we could go offline and we could help you. I'm a nice guy, so we do a little direct messaging as one does. Then we moved to email because our relationship was deepening. And he assures me that he is going to have someone call me the next morning. Somebody calls me the next morning. Some poor guy named Norman. Hello. I said, hello, Norman. You've been saddled with it, huh? He says, yes. He says, I've looked into your situation, Mr. Richard. The problem is the product is out of stock. I said, really? I never would have expected that. Said, actually, I'm aware of that. And I'll tell you, I know more than that, Norman. It was out of stock, then it was in stock, and it was reordered, it was canceled, and the order tracking department can't find it, but they have put a secret department that tracks orders for the order tracking department on it, and any day now, they should be getting back to us. He says, gosh, you know our system well. He says, what do you think I should do about it? I said, cancel the order. He says, well, I can ship part of it. And I said, that's nice. Which part? He said, the software. I said, and what would you like me to run it on? He said, so I'm guessing you'd prefer I canceled the order. I said, let's go with that, shall we? He says, I'm on it, Mr. Richard. That night I went home. I ordered the product from Amazon. The next morning at 8 a.m., the product arrived. My son was happy, but I wasn't done. I felt that I hadn't gotten closure. So I took what I'd done and I wrote it out in a long essay, 4,000 words long, and I sent it over to my artist, and she illustrated it with really cute cartoons, and I published it. And then following week, I gave the keynote speech to 350 of the world's largest advertising agencies in Abu Dhabi, and I read the entire essay, beginning to end, with all the real names and all the hashtags. And I said, please go out and tweet what I've just told you. And I digitally distributed to them the PDF. And then I went to a firm I know in London about a week after that, and I said, tell me, can we analyze the reach and impact of what I've just done to PC World? He said, sure. So he did. By his measures, I managed to let a little over 1,250,000 people know my views on PC World Online, and I gotta tell you, I now feel better. So don't let anybody tell you that the web has not changed everything. Everything is different. One person can reach 1 million people. One person can start a business with clearly very little or no capital. Capital is neither a weapon nor an obstacle, it's an excuse at this point. The only thing that you need to start a business is to know how to build the business, and there's lots of ways to do it. There are two groups in the audience today, one Seed Camp and another Springboard, that are two of the best accelerator programs in Europe. My own School for Startups does a great deal of teaching, and we will be teaching, starting a program in 2012, in Romania, teaching in Bucharest and in Timișoara and in Cluj. It is a year-long program for startups, and our goal is to turn out businesses that are fit to succeed. I am profoundly aware of the fact that I knew nothing when I started my first business, and I consequently made an enormous number of mistakes. Those mistakes are optional. In the absence of capital and in the presence of training and mentoring, the odds of the likelihood of starting a successful business go up tremendously. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for your time, suggest you enjoy the How to Web experience. Thank you very much. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Doug. We'll have a short Q&A session. If you all want to ask a question, just raise one hand, and we'll have one of our colleagues coming over here, with a microphone, and they can ask questions.
Don't worry, I don't bite much. No, you can't. Nah.
We record everything, so.
Okay. So after you send all those details online, did you publish them? After you got the research from the company, you said you wanted to see the reach. Did you publish it back?
Did I publish the reach analysis?
Yeah, to them, as in, look, this is what I did to you.
Nah, I just tell stories.
Okay.
Over there.
Wherever you are, grab a mic. All I see are lights.
Thank you. What is the usual process when pitching for angel capital? What are the steps and so on you take your pitchers through?
Step one, find an angel. That's harder than it may seem. Step two, catch their attention. You have one sentence. This notion that you have an elevator pitch, think of it as an elevator that's going one floor. I get accosted by opportunities. I get thousands a year. But I'll tell you something, every once in a while, somebody will literally step up by my side, and instead of saying, may I pitch you, which was the sentence they had to pitch me with, by which time I'll say, no, thank you, the smart ones say, a sentence. And in that one, they turned me off. In that one sentence, they caught my attention. And I stopped. I think, God, that's cool. Somebody did it to me just a couple weeks ago, and I thought, and I'm a sucker for this stuff, aren't I? So in that sentence, that one sentence, in my class at School for Startups, I insist that every single person can stand up and in one sentence capture the core benefit of their product or service. We do this for these people in this way differently than others. A, B, C, done. And if it's of interest to the angel, you now have a dialogue. You are doing a series of sales. The first sale is to find them. The second sale is to close their attention. And the third sale is your proper pitch as you think of it. And remember this, a smart angel is not looking for a good investment. A smart angel is looking for an extraordinary investment that they can have an influence on the outcome. It's the second half that matters. If somebody comes to me and says, Doug, put in your money, and the only advantage I can provide the company is money, I won't invest. Because anybody can provide money. Money is dumb. But if it's in a marketplace where I know people, or if I have connections that can help, or if I'm already somebody who knows the area, if there's things I can do to tilt the odds so the likelihood of success increases, then I'm interested. because it's a hard row to hoe to win. Thus, I want advantage, and I also want advantage I can contribute.
If you're saying money is not an issue, are you helping out on the side of organizational structure and so forth to get the business running? Are you offering a sort of team or that sort of
You mean, what do I do as an angel?
Yes, yes.
As an angel, each investment that I'm an uncommon angel in that I invest mostly at seed stage. I invest usually within the first few months of a business's existence. Thus, inevitably, I participate quite a bit. So the last investment I was in, I actually invested before it was a company, and I helped frame the legal structure, set it up. I lent them programmers. My own marketing department pitched in. We borrowed my PR firm. I used my name to get the press. Once it was up and running, I brought in the first external angel investor from California and then set us up so that we could go to the US. So I spent 6 months of hard graft helping succeed. I helped create the advantage. I did it for 2 reasons. Number one, if I give my money to you, you'll waste it because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. But if I give you my money and my expertise, then you won't waste my money. You may laugh, but you people waste my money all the time. I don't want you to waste it. There's not that much to give. So I want us to use what money we've got together productively. Best way to do it is to spend it with you. You're welcome.
A question that I have, and it's sort of double-edged. You travel all over the world. Do you find some cultures that yield more entrepreneurship than others? And then the second question that I would have in terms of this management and marketing that's needed for a startup, is that something that can be learned, or do we have to have somebody on the team that is kind of natural born at it?
The first question, do I find different quantity and quality of entrepreneurship around the world? I have been quite privileged. I've had a chance to teach entrepreneurship in many, many countries. The answer is I do not find a great deal of difference amongst entrepreneurs, especially the younger they get. I see a huge cleavage between people in their 20s and everyone older globally right now. The newest generation of people are just different. The web has transformed how they view the world and their visibility of the world. And it's really striking if you see it country after country. I can't overemphasize that. Second, having said that, what is different are the cultural conditions that are obstacles or help enterprises start. The fact of the matter is, for better or worse, if you start a business in Silicon Valley or in LA, everybody wants you to succeed. And everybody is not just the obvious players, it's people you're not thinking about. So you start a software company that could revolutionize some sort of transaction, and you think, great, I'm going to go direct to consumers. But in the US, some large corporation will also want it, and they themselves are entrepreneurial customers. They buy from the unknown. It is really difficult for me to get a British corporation to buy from a startup, even though the mere act of the purchase removes the financial risk of purchasing from them. I've had that conversation before. It's why I get so angry every time I say it out loud. And so there's a difference in the context, but not a difference in the entrepreneurs. The second question, the management skills to start a business. Yes, they are completely learnable, period. No one is born an entrepreneur. You're born a baby. We would never do this in any other field of effort. If I gave you a violin and said, I want you to be a concert violinist, you have to be born a great violinist. Good luck. You do have to be born a great violinist, but on the way you get 20 years worth of training. And you get a lot of practice. The fact is 99% of the things you need to know, you can be taught. And if you can be taught, you should take the time to learn because it doesn't take that much time. It's why I started School for Startups. For that precise observation, there's no nasty notion that you have to be born an entrepreneur. It's bullshit. In the nicest possible way. This guy over there.
Any more questions? Over there.
Hi. You've mentioned earlier that the cost of starting a startup have decreased tenfold in the last 5-6 years. How do you think that affected competitiveness in the market? Hasn't that grown proportionally, which would sort of equal out the chances of succeeding?
It's a very good question. I mean, I would rephrase the question slightly to say, does the decrease in cost of capital remove barriers to entry that permit more competition for the same idea? All I have to say is one word, and you'll see the answer, Groupon. There is a Groupon, and there's 1,000 almost Groupons all over the place. The act of cloning, of somebody starting a hot business in the valley, and in weeks you see clones of it all over the world, is testimony to your point. But I think that you're seeing the wrong, so the answer on some level is yes, it's a challenge. The good news is you're the challenger, meaning the advantage was Groupon. The advantage was the guy who had huge capital and 10 years ago could only start in the valley. I'm not in the valley right now. I'm sitting in Bucharest where there's a huge amount of talent and not nearly as much capital. So this is the advantage you've acquired at their expense. But yes, you're entering a world with low barriers to entry. So therefore, you just offset it with two advantages: speed and narrowness. Do one thing, do it well, do it fast, and you're already late. I can't imagine why you're just sitting around listening to me.